Hi guys. So I thought it might be nice if I put together a little information about gouache. I had a lot of students who had never used gouache before class this fall and ended up hearing lots and lots of really positive comments about it. And so I thought, well, I'll put together some information in case anyone is looking for Christmas gifts for your artist. So I'm gonna show a little bit of the PowerPoint. Okay. So gouache is an opaque watercolor. So it's still water-based medium like watercolor. It has a lot of the same pigments used in the making of gouache, but the binding agent is different than in watercolors. And that's what allows the paint to be, it can be very, very opaque, or it can be a little bit transparent like watercolor, the more water you add to it. So on this slide here, you see this little painting on black paper, and that's all done with gouache. And it kind of has a look of like acrylic paints, but it's not quite the same as acrylic paint. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys, I'm gonna switch cameras here, and there we go. Now I can show you a little bit about how it works. So you still use water with the paint, but instead of it coming off really, really light at first, it can come off really bright and vibrant. So I'll do a quick little swatch here on, I'll do some on the white paper. Yeah, so it goes on a lot more creamy than watercolor does. I've got a glare here. I'll have to move that. And really, really bright at first, and then the more water you add to it, you can get it to look a lot more like watercolor, which I think that part of the reason that the kids ended up liking it so much is because it has all of the, or most of the features that you can get with watercolor, but it's maybe a tad bit easier to control than watercolor. Let's see if I can turn this so you can see it a little better. Yeah, so even on this black multimedia paper, if I add a little water to it, it just lets more of the black paper show through. Yeah, there's a glare, but it's pretty fun. The other thing that's nice about it, compared, if you're comparing it with watercolors, if you're using watercolor, you have to very intentionally preserve anything that you want to be a light area, because you cannot go back once it's dark and lighten it up if you're using watercolor. But with gouache, since it is opaque, once it's dry enough, you could go back even with white gouache on top and make a light area after you're practically done with painting. So it's pretty fun. Something else that some artists will do is, with their watercolors, is to just have one tube of white gouache. so that you can use it on top of your watercolors to lighten up an area, and that kind of gives you the best of both worlds. Oops, I got a little drip here. So, other thing here, when you're using gouache, you still are using the same type of brushes that you use with watercolor. Or you can, like if you went to Hobby Lobby or Michael's, they might have some brushes that say that they're for use with a multiple types of paint. Those are probably fine. You probably just wouldn't want brushes that said that they are for oil paints, but any of the multimedia brushes or watercolor brushes work fine with gouache. And something else that is really nice is you use watercolor paper. It's upside down. You can absolutely use pretty much any kind of watercolor paper with gouache, and that works really nice. And you also can use, like, this is just a multimedia paper. So it's thicker than construction paper. It almost feels like cardstock. It's just called multimedia paper, and that works really nice. And you can get it in different colors, not just black. But Hobby Lobby and Michael's both have a really nice selection of artist papers. Something else that is fun with gouache and maybe a little bit easier for traveling about is if your student is interested in like painting on the go, then getting a sketchbook. Oh, there we go. Getting a sketchbook that either has multimedia paper in it or watercolor paper. Gouache is really nice for doing on the go because you don't need quite as much water, and it dries really quickly as well. And it just works real nice in these sketchbooks. Even if you don't buy an expensive watercolor sketchbook, you still can often use the gouache on the paper, and the paper won't rumple because you don't need as much water. So that's a fun thing. This is my, let's see if I can get it in the camera. I've got one sketchbook that I've been messing around with gouache in, and that's a lot of fun. But it'd be fun for traveling, or if you have a student that gets interested in doing on location type painting. Okay, so types of gouache that you can get locally. In class, at first, I started with this Royal Langnickel type of gouache that I got from United Art. And it's a student grade gouache. It worked. We used this for the majority of our projects, and I was very happy with it. I don't know, I don't know, years and years and years down the road, sometimes student grade paints will fade. And I'm not sure about this brand, whether it will or not, but for a student grade paint, I was really happy with it. Let's see if I look at it closer. Royal Langnickel. I was saying it wrong, but it can be purchased at United Art. And if you tell them you're a homeschool teacher, they at least used to do like teacher discounts if you homeschool. So that was kind of cool. Plus, they just have good coupons if you get on their mailing list. So Royal Langnickel, that's a brand you can get locally. And I think I got a pack of 24 colors for around, I think it was around $20. Another option locally is the Master's Touch from Hobby Lobby. And this is even less expensive than the Royal Langnickel. And I've also been really happy with that. Towards the end of the time in class that we were using gouache, I was starting to run out of certain colors, and I was at Hobby Lobby, so I went ahead and bought this pack, and we used a little bit of it, and it seemed comparable to the Royal Langnickel. The tubes are a little smaller, but like this pack, I believe that when the Master's Touch is on sale, that it ends up only being around $10. So that's a really nice option. And then another option is Winsor Newton. And if it just says Winsor Newton and it doesn't say professional, then it's the student grade. And that's what this is. This is from Michael's. And I believe that it runs $20 for the pack, but if you have a coupon, then of course you can get a discount. I do think that the Winsor Newton gouache, the student grade, is even a better quality than the other two. And I'll come back to one more type here in a minute. So in class, I had got, they didn't look like this. I had little black tins that I put these little half pans in. There's magnets on the bottom, which we did find we had to use super glue to get the magnets to stick. But doing something like this is a really inexpensive way to have a little travel palette. So with any of these tube gouache paints, you can squeeze them in there and let them dry, and then you work with them from that little cake state. And the kids all know how to do this. They have little spray bottles, so before you start to paint, you have to give them a little squirt to re-wet them. But this is a fun little way to have like a little to-go painting kit. This little tin is from the general store in Grable, and it had little mints in it, a little sugar-free mints, and it has a little Bible verse, but they are so cute. So my daughter is actually getting one of these for Christmas because I'm making her a little to-go art kit. But that's why I have that out. Another thing about storing gouache. So this is just a really inexpensive, it's like $6 plastic palette that you can get on Amazon. And for at home, this is what I ended up putting my gouache in, and I like it because it has lots of mixing space. And I can squeeze the tube paints into the little wells and then just let them dry and spritz them when it's time to paint to reactivate them. But this, doing something like this or one of these little tins prevents the temptation to squeeze your tube gouache out, and then when you're done to just throw away the leftover. That's not necessary. You can keep it for a long time and keep using it, and it will, when it reactivates, it'll still be opaque, which is awesome. Okay, I have one last gouache idea, and that is jelly gouache. So this is not tube gouache, and this one is from Michael's. It's the Artist Loft brand. And again, if you use the coupons right, you can get some of these art supplies at a really good deal. And how this works, it has a little tray in here that you can flip over to use as a mixing surface, and it also just helps keep all your paints where they're supposed to be in between using them. So this comes in, instead of the tubes, all the gouache is in these little buckets. And you can actually get replacements of these, which is kind of cool. Now this is heavy. It would not be good for travel or toting it around. But for at home, this is a really fun gouache setup. And I don't have a spray bottle close by, but these two, after a while, you can kind of tell, like this one is drying. It's not totally dry, but they will start to dry up. So eventually you will have to spritz them with your little water before you start painting. But this is just another format for getting your gouache. And if you don't want to go the tube route. And there is a brand that you can get on Amazon and from other art dealers called Hemi Jelly Gouache, and it's more towards the intermediate or professional grade gouache. But I have been really happy with just this Artist Loft Jelly Gouache, and it's super fun to play with. And it's so nice it came with 2 whites, because you do end up using a lot of white when you're painting with gouache. So that's from Michael's, so that is another option. And also, which I don't have any, but Michael's, at least the one over on Maysville, actually sells some professional gouache as well. So they sell Winsor Newton professional gouache, and they sell Holbein professional gouache, and they are way more pricey than anything that I've showed you. But both those brands are known to be really good, and those would have a light fastness to quality to them, so that if you know, if that was important to you, if your student painted something and you wanted it to not have faded at all when they look at it again in 25 years, then that's kind of the benefit to the professional gouache. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I was going to show you. I don't think so. I think that covers it. I hope that this helps if anybody is thinking about getting some gouache for your student for Christmas. I know actually I've heard a few of the students had said that they were going to ask for gouache for Christmas, which as the art teacher, that just makes me so happy. But I'll turn this off. So I hope you all have a Merry Christmas, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I will help if I can. Bye.